process is always have a game plan. Always know what it is, whether it's the next 5 years, whether it's the next 10 years, whether it's the next 3 months. Some people like to live, maybe it's tomorrow. Know what you want to do tomorrow. Right. Always have a game plan. Always have kind of a layout that's subject to change. That's not permanent.
That's good, actually.
Have you ever felt confused about your present, like feeling like you're all over the place and super anxious about your future, but you have the desire to pursue purpose? Well, my name is Michelle Morris, and I've created a series called Living on Purpose. In this series, I interview different individuals who are doing just that, living on purpose. And we talk about their different obstacles that they face, the ups, the downs, and actually what it's like now to actually be pursuing purpose. So I want you guys to come along the journey with me as we talk to these different individuals. We see what it's like to live on purpose.
Brandon, thank you so much for this opportunity to sit with you and talk about.
No, go ahead.
Okay, no, thanks so much for allowing me to sit with you and talk about what it is that you do. So I know that you are the production manager here at Potential Church, and there's so many things that you do, and I do find it there's so many things that I find it so inspiring. But can you just tell us a little bit about what it is that you do here at Potential Church?
Yeah, well, I sit in the role of the global production manager. So essentially, I'm over all audio, visuals, and lighting for all of our campuses. We have, I think, a total of 5. We have this one, Cooper City, Hollandale Beach, Pensacola, and then we have 2 in South America, in Peru. So right now, I'm in a position to where I spearhead almost all of the technology aside from the IT stuff. So like if there's any hiccups, if there's any trainings that need to happen, any troubleshooting, I get calls all the time, hey, this doesn't work, or it doesn't work the way it was working before. How do I fix it? And I basically have to be able to harness the ability to walk somebody through something over the phone. I'm like AT&T tech support.
like just one person. Okay, so like I said, you're at a church.
Yeah.
Now this is very uncommon. So how did you get to a church? Because we're in church.
Wow. Man, how did I get to a church? Church is so I grew up in church. I will say I did have a firm foundation growing up. And then I went to a time period where I was extremely angry at God. He took my mom away when I was 14 years old. And I didn't know why. I'm a kid. I have 2 older sisters that are much older than me. And they were already moved out of the house by the time she had passed away. So it was me and her, or her and I. And she was my best friend. So my time, I would say, up until college. So essentially from 14 to college, which is like a good 5 years, I basically fell out of the church. I didn't want to go. I just didn't, not that I didn't, I guess, believe, but I was being me, stubborn me. And then I really got to college, and something that I really appreciated about college was it allowed me to experience other religions, and experience other walks of faith that weren't what I was accustomed to. So essentially, I got to make a decision based on my own thought process. I'm a very logistical guy, which you kind of have to be in order to be to press buttons. Yes. I'm a professional button pusher. So I really got to gauge all of the different walks of faith and just kind of like make my own conclusion and my own ending, if you will, with the faith that I chose to. And Christianity turned out that was the one that I chose. One, it made the most sense to me. 2, it in terms of the impact and more than myself, I felt it was one. And then another thing, it really, something that really touched me was was that it wasn't a religion based on how well you scored on essentially a test, the test of life. Man, if you don't pass this test, you won't get into heaven type deal.
Right.
And that's not to say you don't try your best to walk in the way that you want to, but it really gave me kind of like a drive to where I wasn't, where you're not always looking over your shoulder like, man, if I slip up here, it's not going to work for me, or I have to accomplish so many things in order to get a ticket somewhere.
I hear you. So with saying that, so you said you're a professional button pusher,
Yes.
but you're a professional button pusher here at church.
Yes.
Now, what happened in your career where you got to church? Because most people, you said you went to college.
Yeah.
I don't know, but you can let me know. In college, a lot of people don't say, so when I finish going to school for production, I want to work at a church and push buttons.
Right.
So did you ever, which is nothing wrong with that, but I'm saying, did you ever go experience elsewhere? Like, did you go work in radio, or like, what else is your experience in this profession?
So, I did not come out of college wanting to be a professional button pusher in church.
Yes.
That was not my goal. When I've actually been I was in the industry for about 10 years. I started while I was at Bethune-Cookman, and that was like my sophomore year. I got my first gig PAing for. Don't tell nobody. It was BT Spring Bling, 2010. I'll never forget it. One of my professors. She was really high on like a few of us, and she like really saw something in us. So being that she was already a chief stage manager and she was still working, and I think she still works for Steve Harvey, but she really got us in to some of those gigs. So early on, I had the opportunity to work for BET and MTV and ESPNU, and I really got my foot in the door. And then once I graduated, I went and I started working in national syndication television, and it was such an experience. I wouldn't trade it for the world. It taught. In hindsight, it taught me so much about the grind. A lot of the times, and a lot of people don't really know, especially on the behind the scenes side of it, you don't start off making a bunch of money. So when people see like, you're a photographer for this, a lot of the times you're not making pennies, but you're not out there balling like Dwayne Wade. So it really taught me to grind. It taught me work ethic. It taught me the ability to troubleshoot, what I think is probably one of my best assets here, even here in the church, is the ability to multitask and the ability to troubleshoot on the fly. And under pressure, like where you're up against the clock.
I would say that I know I've experienced that with you, because you've kind of taken me under your wing, and I freak out and I panic. And I think one thing I admire about you the most is that you don't panic. I don't know where you got that from, but like I will panic. You'll just be like F1. I'm like, okay. But I'm speaking of doing production and everything like that. When was that aha moment? Because this is not a traditional career. Like most people say they want to be a doctor or a lawyer or something more traditional. So how did you know production? Like what was that for you? Were you young, or like how did you figure that out?
Man, I can tell you. So it didn't become, when you mentioned that aha moment. That actually didn't hit until like 4 years ago.
Wow. Okay.
Look, about 3 years ago.
Okay.
So I've always had a thing for production. Even you know how like in elementary school, I don't know if you remember, you used to do the morning announcements.
Yes. I did that in high school. I'm embarrassed. You said elementary. I was doing that in high school, but okay.
So like I was a part of like the AV club when I was super duper young. And then I pulled away from it. I started getting into extracurricular stuff. So I was in the band for 7 years, and then I turned into a bit of a jock. So I played football, I wrestled, I ran track, I did all the things that the big macho dude is supposed to do. So I fell out of that. I fell out of that world of cameras and TV. But I always loved love being around television, love
Right.
being in its presence. I still remember, like, my sisters tell me to this day, like, they used to see me sit in front of the television and watch telenovelas
Yeah.
and
I love
just
novelas.
be enamored by just the TV. I didn't know what they was. I still don't know what they I still don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But just like the quality of it, the just the acting part of it, and I really feel like I just went the other lane. You know how usually people, they go to the front of the camera part of it,
Right.
where it's like, I want to be an actor, an actress, and all those different things. I just fell in love with the other side
You
of
want to
it.
create that.
Right. And then it wasn't until I got into the industry and I kind of got burnt out a little bit, and then I
Right.
took a break. And then in that break, my love for production grew even more.
So I want to touch on that, but something else I want to touch on. You mentioned your sisters a lot.
Yeah.
So were they, your sisters, your mom, your family, were they did they encourage you, or were they supportive rather in your decision to do productive? Because I know for myself, I grew up from a Caribbean background, and if you're not becoming a nurse, like till this day, my grandmother tells me to go to school for nursing.
Yes.
So it's like, were they supportive in that, or like, or was it like?
So I am Americanized behavior.
okay. Well, yeah, me too.
No,
But yeah.
no, so my mom was really big on. She was an engineer, so that was what she wanted me to be.
Of course,
She wanted me to go to college,
Yeah.
get
Become
a
an
degree,
engineer, yeah.
become an engineer, become an architect, become all those different things that make
Right.
high six figures and above. And I was like,
Okay.
I don't like math. I don't like science.
Yes.
But my sisters they're super duper supportive. I've always been, my family they've always been high on me just because not only am I the youngest, I'm the youngest of the three of us. I'm the youngest of like all of the grandchildren in my generation.
Wow, so you're like the baby.
So I'm old.
Yeah.
I'm older.
You're
but
an older
I'm
baby.
still I'm still the little bit, like I can
Yeah.
go to all of my cousins and they see me as like
A baby.
a baby.
Yeah.
So it really was whatever I fell in love with, they supported it. As long as it wasn't crazy out the box, outlandish type stuff. And I really have a passion for it. They didn't see a problem with it.
So that brings me to the next part of what you said. You talked about you fell out of love with doing the TV type, corporate America. So how did you fall in love with wanting to come to church now?
So when I was working, I actually couldn't go to church because at least I could have, now that I know that there's like services all day every day.
Yeah.
But when I was working, I had the mindset that like, man, church was Sunday morning at sunrise, and at that time I'm working. My call time was 3 a.m. for about 7 years.
Right.
And I worked, my off days were Monday and Tuesday. So, which I still had a weekend, but it wasn't the same weekend that everyone else had.
Yeah.
So for a while, I didn't go to church. A lot of my growth or spiritually, all of that came from whether or not I actively sought it out or not. And then there was a time period where I didn't go to church. I didn't listen to the most worship music I listened to was whether when I was in the car or if I heard it on 99 Jams on Sunday morning,
Big Sunday Soul, something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of it. That was the extent, unless I took the time off to actually go to church.
Right.
And then when I took a step back, that was really an opportunity that I appreciate my sisters for doing this, because they were the ones that saw it. They were like, oh, you're not working on Sundays? You going to church.
Yeah.
You come to church with me. And I was like, but it's Sunday.
Yeah.
And I'm tired. And I want to sleep.
Yeah.
And they were like, nope, get dressed. Come on, we going to church. And for a while, the first couple weeks, I was just sitting there like, okay. And then over the period of time, like I started to get involved in volunteering, and that was something that kind of reignited and kind of shifted my purpose.
Right.
Because before it was, to be quite candid, it was just like chase the money.
Right. Yeah.
It was for 10 years.
For a lot of people, that is. Yeah.
It was chase the bag, not step on people,
right,
but do whatever it needs to be done in order to get to that next tax bracket.
Especially in the career that you're in. So it's so funny because that actually brings me right into the next question I was going to ask you was, how important is integrity when pursuing purpose? Like, how important is that to you?
To me, or in general?
In general.
Man, it's super duper important.
Mm-hmm.
I like to pride myself on being able to sleep at night.
Right, yeah.
And even to now, being able to, like, no pun intended, like the mission for the church is partnering with people to reach their God potential, to impact the world for good. And like, that's something that even to now speaks volumes to me, is out, like, even in the industry or even in between these walls, even if you, no matter how you feel or how hurt you are in the moment, how tired you are, how intentional are you about impacting the people around you?
Right.
And that is something that now I'm even in the stage I am now, beginning to get a greater grasp on, is the people, because the people that walk through the doors or the people that you encounter outside, like, you don't know their story.
Right.
And a lot of the times when you make a decision based on temporary feelings in the moment, you never know how that'll affect the person that you've come in contact with. So now I try and make it a point. Sometimes my face doesn't say it, but that's just because I'm a happy guy, but I'm not a jolly guy.
Right. Yeah.
But I try to make an intentional decision that when I come in contact with, no matter who it is, to have a sense of integrity, a sense of kindness,
right.
To have like a loving attitude towards them, because you never know how that'll affect their day.
Right.
And realistically, we do 4 services a day. When you're locked in to the services run about an hour and 15.
You're right.
So even as a volunteer,
on a good day,
when you're locked into a service for an hour and 15 plus minutes,
right.
like, it only helps if there's someone that's encouraging in your ear.
Right.
And if the person that's in your ears isn't encouraging, it's like, well, do I really want to be here?
Right. Right. And you're talking about, just so like the people watching know, you're saying in your ear because your volunteers, they wear headsets.
Yes.
And you talk to them and you walk them through and
yeah.
Right.
So I try to always have a sense of fun. That's something I really love to have, is like having that balance, that work fun balance.
Yeah.
To where there are moments in the service where it's like, hey, we got to hit these marks.
Right.
And then there are moments where it's like, hey, have fun, be creative,
yeah.
do whatever your heart desires, as long as you don't break nothing.
That's awesome. Okay, so what advice would you give someone who's struggling to find their purpose? Like, some people would envy you almost, because it's like, man, like, he's doing what he loves. So what advice would you give someone, not necessarily, who wants to do production, but just in life? Or in production purpose. Too. Yeah, in production.
Man, I really went through this.
Mm-hmm.
Even getting here, like, I went through this.
Right.
So one of my biggest takeaways was that, and how I even got to this position now, is I stopped chasing the material aspect of what I'm gifted in. So whereas before, not saying money is a bad thing, but that's all I chased. That was my sole purpose and identity in doing what I was doing. And now I feel like my purpose has not so much to do with the money, but using my talents and abilities to help others realize and recognize their talents and abilities. So, in all actuality, like as great as production is, and I love it to death to its core, I use production. I use it as a tool to get to the person.
So it's almost like a ministry.
It is a ministry. So I use the tangible aspect of production just to get to the person to see, okay, what impact can I make on the person?
Right.
And we can use the toys along the way. We can always have, with your friends, you can always have fun with toys.
Right.
But what really make you friends is like, not that you know secrets about each other, but you share bond, you share like things that you share experiences with each other that you don't share with other people.
That's true. Yeah.
So that's really, I just use production as the tool for us to get experiences together.
Yeah.
And then in that, you begin to do life together. You begin to because remember, I forgot where the quote comes from, but almost like you are who the people you keep around you are basically make up who you are.
Kind of like
I
birds
just
of
butchered
a feather.
that.
Yeah, you did. 'Cause I don't know what you're talking about, but
I just butchered that.
Kind of like
so
birds
don't quote me on that.
Kind of like birds of a feather flock together. Type.
Right, birds of a feather flock together, and like that's really what it is. When you can use a common ground to build a relationship with people who are going in the same direction that either you're already going in or that you want to go into. That's really a special time or a special place that you can be in life, and that's really what it's all about. At the end of the day, you want joy, you want happiness, you want great fellowship. We all know we're not going to live on this earth forever, so why not enjoy it while you're here? And what better way to enjoy the time that you're here than with the people around you that you enjoy? So.
Oh, that's awesome. So that brings me to my last question that I like to ask all my guests, and that is, what does living on purpose mean to you?
Living on purpose. Hold on a second. I can give you two answers.
Give me whatever
I
you
give
want.
you Jesus' answer, or I can
or you can just give me both. Honestly, just give me both. It's whatever. What does it mean to you? Like, because it's different for everybody. So what does it mean to you?
Yeah, I think if I'm looking at it, if you're asking me for the faith walk answer, I would think I'm here on assignment.
Okay.
God's and He's given everyone an assignment. Everyone is meant to deposit something on this earth.
That's good.
And I feel that in that, part of you depositing what you have on this earth has to be done in community. So that's really a big part, like building community, building and doing it out of love. Not doing and a lot of the times we don't realize that when we do things for others, like that, it comes back in such a way, like tenfold, that we don't even realize. I can tell you right now, like these guys I've built community with that are on my team,
right?
Amazing guys, and I'm having car trouble right now. And they're helping me.
And you are here.
I'm here doing this interview, and they're downstairs trying to get my car up and running.
Right.
So like stuff like that is the little things. Like we appreciate each other so much that you're willing to go the extra mile for the people that you love or that you have love for. And man, that's a blessing in and of itself. And if you can deposit anything on this world man, love to others is one of the biggest things,
Right.
because it goes such a long way.
Right. That's awesome. Well, Brandon, thank you so much.
No problem.
Is there anything you'd like to leave us with today as we go ahead and wrap this up?
I think one thing, well, here's something I can leave you with. And this
Okay.
this can apply to anything that you find yourself being a part of, whether it's your career, whether it's just life in general. And something that I try and lead the ministry on here are the 3 P's, which are people, process, and then product. If you always treat people accordingly, treat them with kindness, pour into them, kind of give them, not put them on a pedestal, but you give them you tie your sense of purpose with them. It'll go a long way in building relationship. And then the process is always have a game plan. Always know what it is, whether it's the next 5 years, whether it's the next 10 years, whether it's the next 3 months. Some people like to live, maybe it's tomorrow. Know what you want to do tomorrow.
Right.
Always have a game plan. Always have kind of a layout that's subject to change. That's not permanent.
That's good, actually.
And
People don't like change.
And then the product, always do things to the best of your abilities. Whatever it is, always give above and beyond. Give that 101, 102, 110. Whatever the plus number is, always give it plus post 100. And you'll find yourself in positions that you probably don't see yourself fit for, but God saw you fit for.
That's so good.
And in that, the growth, the maturity, just the ability to reach people that you never thought you'd be able to reach will grow exponentially.
That's awesome. Well, thank you, Brandon, and thank you so much.
No problem.
And I think that's all.
Did you like this interview? Tell me what you liked about it in the comment section below. And while you're down there, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and make sure you hit that bell button so you get more notifications for the next Living on Purpose interview. And don't forget to share this video with someone that you like, love, or you just want to see this video. Anyways, guys, thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys in the next episode of Living on Purpose. Bye, guys.